Hey Rebels, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you a unique way to capture the altcoin moves before they pop off aggressively. What we're looking for are assets that are going to outperform Bitcoin. If we are going to assume that this is a capitulation event that is going to lead to higher prices in the altcoin space, we've seen the sentiment flush, we've seen capitulation, the largest liquidations ever. Typically, these are the moves that precede higher expansion. So things are actually lining up, even though the sentiment even though the feeling doesn't necessarily indicate that. So in this video, I'm going to show you a unique way to catch the winners of the next move. So if that sounds good, like and subscribe, and we're just going to dive right in. So what I have in front of me is actually a chart of Bitcoin right here. That's in the candles right here. And what I've done is I've added various assets that are actually in my portfolio. So this is one of my portfolios that I've added here, and I want to know how are they performing after this massive dip. So what I've done, and I'll put Bitcoin here in the candle so you can see, is we had this major liquidation candle. I put a vertical line right on that dip, and then I will line the chart up just like so, right on that. Make this a line chart again and see where is everything stacking up. And you can see that we have actually started to see it bounce pretty aggressively in the altcoins. I will also say that this is Sunday evening. I'm going to launch this on Wednesday. So by Wednesday, things could be very different. We could actually see, a sell-off in the beginning of the week, or we might have a down week this week before a recovery. We're not sure. Nobody actually knows where we're going to be, but things happen fast in crypto, so you have to be ready. So right after the event is when I'm going to be looking for the strength or weakness in my alts or any other alts that I've been interested in. So we can see right now that we're having a pretty strong recovery in the likes of SUI and Aether, Beam, Aerodrome, and there's only one right in my portfolio right now that's not outperforming Bitcoin, which is Peak, which makes sense because it is the lowest cap. And I also see another area here, another low right here. And I might want to say, okay, well, how's everything performing from that low? Because it seems like we are getting more of a rapid expansion to the upside from that point. And again, okay, Aerodrome still in the top. Peaks actually started to catch up a little bit. Sui, Aether, these are all doing really well. What I like to see and what you want to see is you want to see these assets outperforming Bitcoin. And typically, you always want your assets to be outperforming Bitcoin. Otherwise, there's no point. You should just be holding Bitcoin. That's one of those do as I say, not as I do, because nobody in this crypto market, including myself, has really been holding Bitcoin as the major. Well, I can't say nobody, but a lot of people have not been holding Bitcoin or Ethereum as the bulk of their portfolio, unless they've been around for multiple cycles. But anyway, there's a lot of speculation happening in this market, so everybody's primed for this altcoin season, just kind of waiting for this outperformance to happen. And if done right, and they hold on, long enough correctly with the right assets, it can happen. And anyway, that's basically what we're waiting for right now is the end of the Bitcoin cycle, which we pretty much hit it to a tick. I mean, the end of if you subscribe to the 4 year cycle, sometime in Q4, November is typically when Bitcoin peaks. Now, that does not mean that's when the rest of the altcoins peak because you have that outperformance at the very end where you have just a massive explosion of liquidity into the altcoins. And that's basically what everybody's been waiting for. The buy and hold this cycle has been probably just as rough as ever, but I think people have short memories and they don't remember having to suffer 70 to 80% drawdowns in those altcoins. When you look back and you look at how Solana performed and ADA performed and BNB performed, it all looks like it was all gravy. But if you really zoom into the charts, massive liquidation events, 70% drawdowns before, multiple 10x's to the upside. Okay. So things are not actually that different this cycle, but people I think have short-term memory or the information that they look at is bias and they don't look at the whole picture. So anyway, I'm going on a tirade here. So one thing that we can do here, this is just one of my portfolios, and so yes, things are looking good. I'm starting to see uh, some aggressive expansion in these alts off of the lows, which is what we would hope to see after a manipulated event like that, and a massive flush. Um, I would imagine that we're going to see that we could potentially see some more downside from here, but I would imagine that that's going to get bought up because big money just bought up in a large way. I talked last week about uh, different leverage traders opening up leverage trades shorts to the downside just hours before the tariff announcements and then cashing out minutes into that trade with hundreds of millions of dollars profit. World Liberty Finance sold off aggressively hours before the announcement. So people knew that this was going to happen. And then that dip got bought up very aggressively. So we're basically back up to square one right now. that seems like a manipulated move. Now, manipulation can work to our favor to the upside. So this is why you have to stay engaged in these markets, and you can't always you can't always trust your feelings at the time because the feelings right now are across the board. The sentiment is like everybody thinks crypto's a scam. Everybody lost their life savings. The reality is that there's not a lot of new participants in crypto right now, so it was hard for the people who had to endure it. But there wasn't a lot of new people in the space. So there's still a lot of room to the upside for that massive rush of liquidity. So that tirade finally being over, I'm going to go into how else can we use this information. I'm going to move this chart here, move that forward. You could also do it for sectors. So let me zoom in to this right here. I have a sectors page for I call these squiggle charts, or that's what I've seen them referred to as. I guess I can't coin that. Um, but what I have here is I have about three from each sector. So I have three AI tokens, I have three real world asset tokens, three gaming tokens, three meme coins. And what I can do at any given time from the lows or anything like that, I can see is there a particular sector that is moving strongly. So maybe I want to find another low and see if I can find any particular sector that's moving. And we don't have to see that. Tau is doing very well. So Tau Potenza might be one to look for an entry on because I see that one as far as this list goes, looking very, very strong. That's the strongest one that I've seen so far, up 40% from my line right here. But basically across the board, everything's outperforming Bitcoin. That's what you want to see. That's something good we like to see. I'm not necessarily noticing any particular sector outperforming at this point. Nothing's poking out at me right now. Gaming, let's see. Yeah, gaming's kind of down there. Uh, yeah, kind of a broad mix. So that's okay. That's also okay. That's something that you want to look for. But if you do happen to notice that, like, wow, all three of my AI tokens are outperforming after this dip, because you can keep doing this for the various dips, they're going to become more aggressive. Like this volatility is only going to increase. It's something that I think that we all anticipated volatility increasing, but nobody could have anticipated this giant move like that. Just a massive 70 to 80% wick to the downside in a 24-hour period. I don't think we were really braced for that, but braced for the volatility. And when we start to see more dips, pop these charts on again and see if we see like, okay, three of my AI tokens are taking off, three of the gaming tokens are taking off. They seem to be the leaders out of this bounce. That's what's getting bought up the most aggressively. The market is telling you that, and this is how you can. And this is how one way to interpret that. The other way to interpret it would be Bitcoin charts, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. That is one other way to do it. So what else do I have here? A watch list. So let me just advance this. All I do is I go down to here and I say move chart forward, and it's going to advance this chart here for me until it gets right here. And then I can pop over to my layouts, make that the main layout. And then I just wanted to do our own watch list. And I'm going to go from this low right here because that was Bitcoin's actual low. We had the big capitulation. We went down a little bit the next day and then started to basically rebound the next day. So I'm actually just going to make a random list of tokens that I've heard of that are common, perhaps you've heard of. Let's do, so all I do is I go up to this plus sign. I'm going to add SUI in there, excuse me. We will add SUI, AVAX, XRP. These are in no particular order. These aren't like favorites of mine or anything. I'm literally just thinking of the commons, ones that are the majors that I've heard of. Near Protocol. Let's look at Tau again. That one seemed to be doing really well. Doge, another main one. These are kind of top 10 ones, right? Hyperliquid. Let's get into some smaller stuff like Aether, Aerodrome. What else? WorldCoin. And you can do this like with any of them. You can see how quickly this is. These are just off the top of my head for no particular reason. AOS, it's an AI token. HBAR, another good one. Okay, I'm going to stop it there because you can get crazy with this. But let's just see if we do the same kind of thing, and I'll stretch this out a little bit, and then just put that right on my line, right like so fashion. And again, we can see things like Arrow, SUI, Aether performing very well, well ahead of some of the others like XRP. And let's see, everything right now is outperforming Bitcoin as of this recording. Like I said, things can change. And if we come down and find another low and continue on, you might just kind of keep advancing this to the different lows and see if the same things are still performing. We've noticed things like Aerodrome and SUI and Aether and Tau Potenza performing really well. Why don't we advance it? We found another little low right there. How are things? Okay, Tau's still ahead of the pack. Aether's doing really well. Aerodrome, SUI still doing really well. And the other things like AVAX and Hyperliquid, not as strong. That was a really strong one before. Not as aggressive out of this bounce. Does not mean that it can't do well, but it just means that these are getting bought the most aggressively, or at least seeing the most percentage increase since the lows. So that is one way to look at it. You know, if you are looking to find good opportunities in this market, this is one way to very quickly add an entire watch list or your own portfolio or things that you're interested in, to see how things are performing. You can use it to go across different sectors and see if different sectors are outperforming. The other thing you can do is you could add a bunch of different smaller cap tokens on here. And when you start to see the smaller cap tokens perhaps start to outperform the SUIs and the NEARs and the XRPs, across the board, then, that could be a way to get kind of a lead on what could be outperforming. So like right now, I mean, we're like we're 2 days out of that, after that capitulation event, and Tau Potenza seems to be doing very well. So this does not mean that Tau Potenza is going to be the leader for the next 5 years, but it's like, but Tau Potenza definitely has some good potential. You may want to look into it, see if there's any good opportunities as far as different trade setups. So, yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Like and subscribe, leave some comments down below. Like to see if this was useful or not. Any other videos that you'd like me to make, happy to do that. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Give it a shot, try it out for yourself, see how your portfolio is doing. Is it outperforming Bitcoin? If it is, great. If it's not, well, start adding some things to your list and start looking for other opportunities, because I think still, my thesis has not changed. We've basically seen capitulation in Bitcoin dominance and in the USDT dominance as well, coming back to levels that we would like to see in that event. And, basically, total three just hanging out right where it's been. We had this massive wick to the downside, but we actually closed higher than this low right here. So on a closing basis, we're not doing terrible. Now this could change in a week, like there's the caveat there, but we're still in a strong position as far as this whole leg goes from the bear market, from the bear market to current prices. We basically just came down and wicked down to the 50% level, back up to where we started from on a shorter term basis. From the move here, how are we doing? Well, the market is telling us, it's not my opinion, the market is telling us that we closed in a stronger position. If we would have closed down below here, that's a warning sign. We've always talked about wicks being okay. Closes is the big deal, and multiple closes. We want to continue to see multiple closes in this area, in this strong zone right here. So, yep, I think that's going to wrap it up for the video. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time. Later, guys. Thank you.